So, I know it's been a while since I've uploaded, and I've finally had the time to make a new video, and what we're doing is something different than what I've done beforehand. Rather than like tutorial based content, I'd like to give some words of advice from my own experiences. Now, what I have here are 5 games I have tried making of my choice, 5 presentable things that I just want to show you guys what not to do when making games and some things to avoid. Now we'll start off here. This place I'm in is the first game I ever made or ever tried making, and basically it was just me hopping onto the very poor quality laptop I had to make games at the time. In fact, all 5 of these games were made before I had the PC I use now for making videos and gaming and game development and whatnot. All 5 of these games were made on a very poor quality laptop I had before that. So I didn't have any 3D modeling tools or anything. I just had, the in-game tools from Roblox, and unfortunately the toolbox, and then the internet to search up code, and also my own knowledge. Now this is the first ever thing I made, like straight out of the gate. I wanted to make a game, and one thing that you should expect when you're trying to make a game is that progress is not going to happen instantly. You're gonna need to put time into learning programming. Maybe you can also learn 3D modeling, but like for game development on Roblox or game development in general, really, you're gonna need to put time in to, I guess, master your craft. I was just doing this going off of models I found from YouTube videos with this leaderboard, with free models from the toolbox because I didn't know better, and as well as just a YouTube series of making a round based game, which this is actually a game based on. It's based on Alvin Blox's series of making a sword fighting game. It's about 3 years dated, so it's a bit old. The code still somehow like it doesn't run on like an actual game, but in studio it does run perfectly fine, and I'll actually show what the game was about in a sec. But like I basically had a bunch of menus and all this stuff like the Game Pass purchasing, the shop itself. These were all made with just me looking on the internet at how to do all these things, and there's nothing wrong with that. In a way, like one thing you'll document throughout this as you observe me showing you guys is that throughout all these, it's easy to observe that I became better and better over time. And that will happen when you put the time in to get better, when you're dedicated to improving and mastering programming. Because programming is not an easy thing to learn, especially if you're like not taking a class for it. Like it was my sophomore year of high school, and I was just like, I wanted to learn programming. So I decided to just go out of my way and learn it on my own time. And it definitely is something that I'm still learning to this day because I just haven't had the time to learn everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody learns at their own pace. However, back to talking about the game. A lot of what you'll see early on is that a lot of free models were used. Like, I just went into the toolbox and, I just insert something because I couldn't model on my own. I was thinking, oh, I'll just remove the scripts. When really, that isn't something you should be doing with your game. Because if you want to make a good quality game, the expectations are that you're going to be able to make the models without grabbing anything from the toolbox. I mean, yeah, games do still succeed and they have some assets from the toolbox, but in general, like all your simulators, all your top-notch, top-tier games on like the Roblox catalog are all going to be made typically with 3D modelers that make their stuff in, like, for example, a program like Blender. But anyways, let's get on to the gameplay of this game. This is basically a sword fighting game that you can only play with 2+ people. And so the idea is that there's an intermission up here, and then 2 players at least get teleported to a map and they just duke it out with swords. However, there is a lot of oversights that I didn't know better or know how to prevent because I didn't really know how to program back at the time when I was basically straight out of the gate new to programming when I was making this game. I was just like, okay, I'll make a game. It'll be super cool. I'll just watch tutorials to make it. Just if you're going to, don't be like me, because these aren't the only 5 failed projects I've had. I'm gonna be honest. In whether part of that is just me being unsatisfied because they take too long, which you should never come to that realization. When you're making a game, always be patient and take the time and put the time in because it'll all be worth it. Me, I was just like, oh, it's taking so long. It's like it's almost like I felt like nothing was getting done fast enough to release the game. When really, I just still had school to balance out, and I just didn't have the time to put in like a full-time effort. And besides, I was doing it all for free with no payment. I was just trying to bank on the fact that, oh, maybe my game will get popular and maybe I will earn the money. I Some advice I would give at the end of the day is if you're gonna put the time in to make a game, especially on your own, make something that will be public. But if you don't have the funds to advertise it or not, just make something that you could play with your friends and put it on public. Because one of the games that I will be showcasing in this video actually got close to 1,000 visits. It's sitting at like 782, 783, and these weren't just my friends. These were also just random people magically discovering the game. But anyways, let's get on to the gameplay of this game so I'm not talking too much about, the stories. We'll talk more about that as I get through the games. I would like to go over all 5 of these games, though. So we'll start the gameplay of what this game is going to be now. So we're in the game, I have a local server on my computer with just 2 players in it. And so we have our intermission. And you'll see, if you look at the output, you'll definitely see some bugs happening. But we have our shop, which I had visions for the game, but like they just never came to be. Like, for example, this knife. I mean, I think this shop works. I haven't tested this in like years, I don't think, because I just stopped working on it because I was like, okay, I'm just gonna move on. But as you can see in Studio, if we were to test this on Roblox itself, I do not believe this game would actually work. So I'm kind of surprised this works in Studio. But we spawned swords. I think I wasn't paying attention. I think we got the swords outside of the game. I know I was testing it beforehand, making the video, and the players were given swords before entering, which is something you don't want in a game like this. But as you can see, observing this map, it's a very low effort map that has a lot of free models in it. It's definitely not my proudest work, but like everybody starts somewhere. And you shouldn't, like, I guess, I'm not really, okay, being honest, I'm not really mad that I abandoned this. The problem is that, like, when you're starting 5 or 6 projects consecutively and none of them come to a public eye for longer than, like, a few months before you are like, okay, I want to make a new game, that's bad. What I'd suggest is that you pick a game and stick to it. Maybe get some friends together that know development, or maybe get a team together. There's the Roblox Dev Forum that's perfect for that, and you could work something out. Or you could always just become a jack of all trades if you want to make a game solo, because that's really what you have to do. You have to learn art, you have to learn 3D modeling, you have to learn programming, you have to know GFX and whatnot, all of the stuff you need for your game to succeed. But anyways, you take the sword, swing it at the player, and then, it says who kills who, game ends. Normally in Studio, what would happen was the players would teleport into the map, and then it would just break. Like they would both it would just say, "Oh, the winner is decided," and they both would just get reset. But as you can see, you get the points, and that's really all the game is. I mean, the idea was that there would be a shop, which would give different item types. So the more you won, you could get stuff like armor, better weapons, maybe like healing items, ranged weapons. So I guess back at the time, I thought it was balanced, but it doesn't really seem too balanced. But I had 2 other knives, which were probably from the toolbox. So it wasn't really that thought out. I mean, there are spawn points scattered around the map. There's, like, I don't really think, I'm not going to link the video series because I'm just going to talk about my failures, really. But yeah, there was also these game passes, which you could buy. Wow, I made some of this, like, yikes. Nobody would buy that. But anyways, that's besides the point. So that's really all there is for this game. Like, it's the first ever game I tried to make. Yeah, you just have the swords in the lobby, so you just kill people in the lobby. But anyways, it's riddled with bugs, I guess, I mean, it doesn't even work on Roblox's website. If I were to make it public right now, it wouldn't work if I were to test it with friends. But yeah, this is like my first attempt at a game, which shocker, it didn't really amass to anything like crazy. So now we'll move on to the next game. So now we're on to game 2. This was actually the first time I wanted to make a game with somebody that offered their help. However, make sure you could do a good background check of the person that you're making a game with, because this is a free model. This is a free model, I guarantee you. I never checked it because I had no idea if he was telling me the truth. He was like, "Oh yeah, dude, I made this," but like, it seemed pretty obvious and too good to be true. Because he was even younger than me, and I was, sophomore year of high school. Like, I wanted to make a game about. It was supposed to be like an FPS simulator, so we have our, and he even used a free model loading screen. Once again, this game was based around tutorials. Like I probably did, yeah, actually I did do tutorials for the Rebirths. So this was a free model loading screen he used. I don't even remember where he found the music, but he probably also got a free model for the snow because we were making it around Christmas time. And so I have a gun here that doesn't even work barely, and it's just a poor quality gun that I got from a YouTube video. Like, once again, know your stuff if you're going to try to make a game of professional quality. It doesn't even work, really. I mean, like, it's supposed to give you bullets for shooting, but it doesn't do that. At least it damages things. Like, you can damage things with it, but I never actually put AI for these because I didn't know how to make AI. And there's also a Rebirth menu, which I got from Alvin Blox' Rebirth tutorial, from his simulator tutorial. And then I forget the name of the YouTuber I got the gun from, but it's just a simple raycast gun that's poorly made. And then I had credits in, so like, I had the friend who actually I think got their account banned. I don't remember how, but I had friends test it with me, of course, make sure it worked. And then there wasn't even a functioning shop. Like a lot of these games, I had huge visions for, but they never came to be, either because I lost motivation, which you should never do. Like, over time, once again, coming back to that, like, if I felt I was spending too much time on a game, like it wasn't coming out fast enough, I would lose motivation because I'd be like, oh, nothing's getting done, blah, blah, blah. You can't have that mentality when making games. Games they're gonna take a long time to make. It's not gonna be like I could just make a game in like a day, a week, and it'll get tons of players playing it. That's not exactly how it works. You want to have a good polished product. So that's really all there is for this game. It's not really of good quality, so I mean, we'll move on to the next one, which the next one is a tower defense game I want to make, which once again I used a kit from a YouTube video. I was trying my best. There wasn't really many I could find on YouTube at the time, I remember. So I was just trying my best to get by, and for some reason I wanted to add like a level system or whatever, I guess. So I had like a profile picture and health bar. I think that was inspired by Lysander's Tower Defenders because I thought it was cool. But like a lot of it's just like models I found on like YouTube and whatnot. And also, I had a cool idea. What if we made a tower defense game with randomized paths? Which, that is true. If I made it, it's pretty simple to do. I just get random patterns I created and put inside a folder. I just grab a random pattern. And so how I accomplished this was I think I made them have an equal amount of turns. Each thing has an equal amount of like checkpoints for the enemies, which towers, I mean, it barely even works. I think because it's a free model. I think the towers were not a free model. It was a YouTube tutorial. I think like the towers would have worked because there was somebody that made it, the system, and I was like using it to make the game. Which, honestly, thinking back on it, it was kind of dumb. Like I could make something of better quality of this now without looking it up. So like, it's like the ideas are forming. But like over time, I just don't have the experience, the knowledge, the confidence to execute properly, because like I didn't know how to make this. I didn't know what the code in this game did because I was just taking it from a tutorial off YouTube. So it's not like it worked. It's not like it worked well, I should say. But now like I know how to make a tower defense game, and actually it is up there as one of the top genre of games I want to make. But yeah, in the lobby, there was a lobby for this game. It was just really barren, as you can see. We're in a crane construction map, which I thought was a cool concept. And as you can see, there's even a bug like place towers down but no money, because that was bugged. But yeah, that's really it for this. I mean, there isn't much to say besides, once again, I was just like, a common theme is that like I was just looking up YouTube tutorials, and you know, part of that was me learning, I guess, but not really, because I was just taking other people's code and not really dissecting it all, which is definitely a way to learn. If you want to learn programming, you can definitely like take code, and rather than use it for your game, just dissect it and look at it, pick it apart, see how it works. That is definitely a way to learn, and one that I'd somewhat promote, as well as looking at the API. I personally learned from watching people like Alvin Blocks and the Dev King on YouTube. Definitely 100% great sources. Only thing is, some of them are getting outdated with the videos becoming older and older, so that is something to keep in mind, which is why the API is always great, because it's always up to date. So yeah, that's it for this tower defense game, the fragment of a tower defense game I want to make. We'll move on to the next game, which is actually the first staple point of my development career. Like, this is where I was like, okay, let's step the quality up. So yeah, this was supposed to be like a dungeon crawler type game, and I put so much effort into it for no reason, because I just abandoned it not even a month in, I think. But like, it had voice acting in it. It was just wasted effort because it wasn't professional quality effort, I guess. Like, I was just tackling I was just like trying to fight the alligator of making a game when I just wasn't ready yet, to be honest. So now we'll move on to the fifth game I had prepared, which is the first game, not actually the first game I learned from. I think instead of doing 5, I'll actually show that last. This was the first game that I was like, okay, I'm making it all from scratch. I'm putting in a heck of effort, and you know, like I'm gonna go in deep and like really work on making a good quality game, which to an extent happened. This is just a solo version. There is a multiplayer version. However, A, this was made without Blender, so like the modeling isn't even the greatest, and B, the game loop I could not get to work. That was the most demotivating thing for me. Was I wanted to get an update out for Halloween, but I couldn't fix the game because what would happen? And being honest, if I were to make this game again now, I would rewrite the whole script. I knew I had to. I just didn't really want to, because it was like so much. It was only like a 300-line script, but I was like, oh my god, all the progress. You know, you got some pumpkins and candles from free models. Everything else I made by myself. And you see, I modeled these things, just obstacles that you can. It was basically just an obby, all based around. You got like 30 seconds, and it's like Wipeout-esque, short, sweet. See who's the last one standing, and just after each 30-second increment, it would just switch to a new one, and everybody would start again. And so how I had it was this end block, just to make sure nobody was AFK. This end block would have a trigger in it. And so there would be a value inside the player, the end point reached or something. And so, you know, a new course would be selected. It just basically keeps track of if you made it. So we have, you know, a conveyor one right there. And as you can see, it'll say player qualified because it's just triggering the code. And the multiplayer one, I mean, here's the thing. If I were to like just say I just fell and, oh no. If the game were to try to start again, the big thing I couldn't fix was multiple, like, it would be like several rounds starting at the same time. I think the solo one worked flawlessly, actually. I don't remember exactly, but like the multiplayer one, I just couldn't get to work because there was like, I don't even know why. Like, it was just, the code would have all needed to be ruined. There was even leaderboards. It was similar to the one I had in that original game I showed, but you know, getting better. Like, this documents the progress. Like, the ideas were here, and you know, I was actually able to execute it. I couldn't get it ready for public release though, because simply my code wasn't working and I wasn't getting any of the output, so I didn't know what to debug. And in a situation like that, I mean, I didn't really know what to do. But, as painful as it sounds, in a case like that, I guess, if you have to rewrite it, there definitely was a better way I could write this game, the game loop for it. There's definitely a better way I can make it. So that is one thing that I have reflected on. Well, I'm clearly the greatest at parkour, but that's one thing I can reflect on and be like, yeah, I can make a better quality game from here. This was more so a game I was excited about because I thought, oh, it's such a cool game. My friends were like, it's a cool game concept, I'd play it, but like, I just couldn't execute it properly. And honestly, I could see myself remaking this game because it was a pretty simple and fun game. I'd actually be able to model a proper stadium, whatnot, and do all the things I'd be able to do. And I think I would actually be able to make a successful game. So that's it for this game. Now there is one last game I want to show, which actually documents the first time where I was starting to develop confidence as a developer. As I mentioned, this was the first game I committed to before that one game with the parkour. It was called Switch. That was just a solo practice area I made. If you want to play solo, there was like a gem currency that I had ideas for getting like items you could sabotage other players with. But this is the first game I committed to before that, which was a low quality simulator game. Not really on par. Once again, I was making this without Blender. A lot of copy and pasting. I was still on tutorials, like especially with these leaderboards. However, this is where I started getting confidence as a developer because I was learning. I was picking up. Like, I did a lot of copy and pasting with this code, but this was the first time I properly figured out .touched events. Like, I was starting to learn. And, I was so proud because I was starting to be able to write code without help. Like, this is when I was starting to learn how to write code without having to, for some things, look it up every time because it would be like, it was just basically about pressing buttons. And, like, I just felt proud because I was able to remember how to do touched events. Because every time I'd be like, oh, I don't know how to get the player from a .touched event. But now, like, this was the game where, like, I confidently learned that. And honestly, I got about almost 800 visits on this game. Random people would play it, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. That just random people would be stumbling upon my game. So this game was a big confidence builder. And had I don't know where I'd be at today if I hadn't worked on this game at all. Of course, a lot of bugs, it's not great quality, not my finest work. That's why it's doomed to be privated. I'd say out of the 6 games I've showed, the parkour game, Switch, which was probably the one game out of all these that I'd want to remake because I was pretty happy with it. This game, I would consider remaking, but I'd have to redo the concept altogether to be more up to date. But like, yeah. At the end of the day, though, like, once again, I gave up on it because I wasn't happy with how progress was coming along. And that's why, even though I'm going to sound like a broken record, it's the one thing I stress the most. If you're working on a game that you're really confident in to do well, you're like, okay, I'm going to make this game, it's going to do great, or it's going to be my first ever game, and it's going to be awesome, commit to it. Don't give up on it just because you're like, oh, well, I'm not happy with how this is going. That's okay. Not every game is going to take a day, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to make. It takes time to make a game, and you need to put in that time. You need to grind. Sometimes, you only have a few hours a day or something. Maybe you can only work on the game on weekends. That's okay. As long as you're making progress and actually working to that end goal of finishing it and having a finished project or finished product that you're happy with, well then, at the end of the day, that's what you've accomplished. That's honestly the best thing you could hope for. I mean, I will admit, in my experience as a developer, I've made a lot of mistakes. Like, for example, giving up on so many projects and not committing, and honestly jumping into the water. I guess it's comparatively like, I was jumping into the water without my floaties. Like, I didn't know how to swim, and I was just trying to dive straight in and learn how to swim with when, maybe I haven't even been in water before or something like that, or well, been in the pool before. It's just a situation like the best pieces of advice I can give are learning and becoming a confident developer before diving straight into a game, knowing that, hey, I can make a pet system or so and so or whatnot. Knowing that you're confident in your abilities of being able to make everything you need for your game, you can maybe make a checklist so okay, I need this, well, I can make that. Bing. Bada boom, bada bing. Just make sure you know what you're doing beforehand. And also commit. That is the one thing I cannot stress enough. You're going to want to commit to your game idea and make sure you push it all the way through. And maybe you stop working on the game after like 6 months, a year. If you made a product that you can at least look back on and think, I made something and I was pretty proud of that. It may not be my finest work, but I made something that I can confidently say I'm proud of. That's really all that matters, is that you're proud of what you created. So yeah, that's my advice to you guys. Like, you've just gotta know. It's just my advice, because you can't just expect results with minimal effort. And so I was just hoping that we could look at some of my past failed projects or experiments, I guess you could call them, and just, I guess, reflect on them and show you guys what I did wrong, to tell you guys what you can do better, so you cannot make the same mistakes I did. Because now I've learned a lot, and it's made me a better developer. These projects have helped me learn as a developer, and I've gained better practices as a result. I mean, there were some things I was proud of, like this game and this game. I was proud of both of these games because of the work I put into them. And I guess that's really all that matters. These were two huge games that gave me the confidence I needed to be the developer I am today. So yeah, hopefully this helped inform you about what you should focus on as when you're developing. What not to do. You don't want to just jump straight into the water without your floaties on, or with you wanna be ready to make that game, and you want to commit to it. So yeah, that's all I got. I'll see you guys in the next one. I don't really know when the next video is going to be. I'd love to, in a perfect world, it would be next week. But I can't really give an estimate with school. I've been busy. So yeah, that's it for the video. That's it. See you.